Things happen, yeah, but in academia, everybody's supposed to be perfect. I, I hate to tell y'all that. In academia, your instructors and your professors are supposedly perfect. They don't make mistakes. They're never late. They have perfect lives. Anyway, let's go ahead and review over what we did last week. And that was pulling out a whole number out of A to get to where we can complete the square. So let's start with the one that we did Friday was 2x squared something. Let's go ahead and do another one where it makes a fraction. So that's going to be, let's go with 3x squared minus 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. Okay, so there is your, your y-intercept. We'll go ahead and highlight the y-intercept. There's our y-intercept. Now we can go complete the square. 3x squared minus 2x plus blank is equal to 1 plus blank. Now, we cannot complete the square because we have a 3 right here. So we've got to get a 1 right there in front of that x squared before we can complete the square. So I'm going to factor out a 3. That's going to give me an x squared minus 2/3 x plus blank is equal to 1 plus 3 times blank. And take my highlighter and I'm going to highlight this 3. Whatever I factor out here, I got to multiply by this blank. And that's where I told you to trust me. I could show you the derivation, but then I'd have to show you another way of completing the square where you do everything on this side and leave the 0 over here. And I think it would not be beneficial to do that. Nobody had anything to say about my instructors think they're perfect. Nobody had anything to say about that. I figured somebody would have said something. I guess not. Y'all must not have any of those instructors that think they're perfect.
They're very beautiful.
You're being sarcastic now.
Yes, I am.
Well, I can't act like that because I grew up in a world where no one is perfect. Yeah. Oh, you used to be an instructor. What did you teach, Mr. Lynch? And yes, Miss Bronson, you were right. Oh, in the Navy. You were a squid. All right. You had to tell me that, didn't you? I don't know crayon jokes, please. All right. So here we go. 3. we got to take the 2/3 and we got to divide it by 2. I'm sorry. Divide it by 2 over 1 and raise that to the second power. So 2/3 times 1/2 raised to the second power. And that'd be 2's cancel. That'd be 1/3 raised to the second power, which is 1/9. And if you'll notice, people, I did that step by what? I did that step by step. And the reason I do this step by step is because some of you suck at this. Okay, so that's why I put that in there. If I assumed that everybody knew how to do fractions, I wouldn't even do this. I would just do 2/3 divided by 2. That's going to be 1/3. 1/3 squared is 1/9. And I would just put that over there. Okay, so that's why I put that in there. Of course, I know some of y'all invented fractions, but for those of you that did not invent mathematics and fractions, I did that for you. Because it's kind of hard. Math is, math is math. And some people like me had a 7th grade teacher that was really terrible and ruined it for the rest of their academic career. So I had to buck it up and either quit or reinvent my math career in my first year of college. So I had to do stuff like this. Okay. So anyway, so that would be shortcut number 2 right here. So that's 3 times x minus 1/3 quantity squared is equal to, well, I'm going to work on this side now. So this is 3 over 1, so that's going to be 1 plus 3 over 1 times 1 over 9. The 3's cancel. 3 cancels there. And that's going to be 1/3. So I got to change this into 3/3. And that's going to be 4/3. Now take this over to the next page and work with it. That means find the vertex. It means write it in intercept form. And it also means find the x-intercepts. So go ahead and do that while everybody's catching up. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite my problem. And I have just ran out of my black marker, so I'm going to have to start using a brown marker and a dark blue marker. I got to go to the store and buy some more black markers. Y'all are so high maintenance. So 3 x minus 1/3 quantity squared equals 4/3. Thank you. So my vertex, I can just go over here and write my vertex because I don't need anything fancy. My vertex is 1/3, comma, negative 4/3. Take the opposite of both. If you take it from this form right here, you take the opposite of both. And if you write it in intercept form, y, which is chapter 2, 3, or f of x or y is equal to 3 times x minus 1/3 quantity squared minus 4/3. Then you write your vertex, the opposite of, that's your horizontal shift, and then bring this down to be negative 4/3. So either way, you get the same vertex. Now I'm going to solve. I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. X minus 1/3 quantity squared multiplied by 1/3 be 4 over 9. Oh my, we actually got a perfect square. That's hardly done like that. Hope I haven't done something wrong. X minus 1/3 is equal to positive or negative 2 over 3. And X is equal to positive or negative 2 plus 1 over 3. Now, since this turns out to be a perfect square, I didn't see your camera on. I didn't even see it. Oh, well. Since there's no radical here, you can't write it in exact terms. You have to actually take it down to simplest terms. And that's going to be 3 over 3 is 1. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So that'd be negative 1/3. So there's your two x-intercepts. So now we're going to take our, I'll let y'all catch up on that right quick. I got to take some drugs right quick. Dang old goodies powder. Can't get the dang thing open. I suck. Dang old goody powder. Powders you
I
can
don't
snort.
like the new packs that they have. I miss the ones that were just the paper folded.
Yeah, I like those too. These are the ones. These are the ones that, yeah. Ooh, and that orange is orange. Woo. Woo. Ooh. Okay, so let's draw it. Take our handy dandy graph paper. We know we got a y-intercept of -1. We've got a vertex of 1/3 and -1 1/3. And I'm exaggerating a little bit to make it big. And we've got a, this is 1/3, so 1 would be about right here. There's our x-intercept. And then over here, we've got -1/3, be right in there. So our domain is all real numbers. Range is from -4/3 to infinity, decreasing from -infinity to 1/3, and then increasing from 1/3 to infinity. And the line of symmetry always goes through the vertex, so that's going to be the line of symmetry. X is equal to 1/3. Now, this is about the 7th or 8th problem we've done. And what are some of y'all seeing as we keep doing these problems? What are some of you seeing? That it is getting easier. Why does the glue not stick to the inside of the bottle? Okay. So, some of y'all should be seeing this getting easier and easier. If you're seeing it getting easier and easier, then that's a good thing. That's usually normal. If you're still saying, what the heck are we doing? Then I don't know if there's any help for you. I think you should just probably quit school and quit, just quit trying altogether. All right, so here we go. Let's move it up a notch. We're about at 7. So let's move it up a notch and let's factor out a negative whole number. So negative 3x squared minus 2x plus 7 is equal to 0. All right, now I want you, there you go. That's right. If you don't understand what you're doing, quit. That's the best thing to do. Quitting's easy. I told my students that. I've been telling my students that for a long time because I had a student one time that came into the class and she was like my former mother-in-law. You would not ask her how she was doing because she would tell you she had the Chinese flu and the swine flu and RF15 and VR549 and all this other stuff. So I just told her one day, I said, why don't you just quit? And it was a bad day. I don't know why I said that. And this was like my first semester. And I didn't ask her. I didn't quit asking her. And one of the students, she walked in and one of the students said, oh, how are you doing today? And she started. And I was in a bad mood already. And it must have been a Monday. And she just started. And I'm like, why don't you just quit? I'll never forget her look on her face when I said that. And the whole class just erupted. Of course, she complained about me, and I'm sorry, but I just don't understand. So that's where the quit comes from. No, she didn't. In fact, after that day, she got even better. She never did say anything about having this and having this and having this. In fact, after that day, when she walked into the class, she was a whole lot more chipper. So I don't know. Maybe it changed her life. I don't know. But that's where I came up with the when the tough gets going, quit, and students need to just quit and all that. And I get a kick out of it. It's funny. Yeah, that's it. I needed to bring her out of herself. Yeah. Just call me the savior, I guess. Not that savior, but a savior. Not that savior, but all right. Negative 3 x squared minus 2x plus blank is equal to negative 7 plus blank. Now remember, let's go ahead and mark. I know y'all get tired of me doing this, but if I do it 15,000 times, for some of y'all that it takes 12,000, y'all will get it. There is our y-intercept. Okay. I can't really tell any difference in this blue and the brown. Just a little bit. I see just a little bit difference. But they both look black to me on this do-jigger. First one's brown and the second one's blue. But it doesn't matter. No, shall shut up. All right, so here we go. I'm going to factor out a negative 3. That's going to give me x squared plus 2/3 x plus blank is equal to negative 7 plus negative 3 times blank. And I'm going to highlight that again. Factor out a negative 3. You got to multiply it by this right side blank. Okay, here we go with our baby steps. 2/3 divided by 2/1 squared. 2/3 multiplied by 1/2 squared. Take out my handy dandy red pen. And that gives me 1/3 quantity squared, which is equal to 1/9. Now, I did not mean for that to happen. 1/9, 1/9. -3 x plus 1/3 quantity squared is equal to, well, let's do this side over here. I'm going to start up here. First thing I'm going to do is put this over 1. So that 3 is going to cancel with this and make a 3 right here. And that's a 1. So that's going to be -1/3. And this is -21/3. So I get -22/3. What do y'all got? Now, is this going to, are we going to have x-intercepts? Remember, I told you, you can't decide on x-intercepts until you get rid of this -3. So I've got to divide by -3. Now this is, wait a minute, let's do our vertex. Our vertex is equal to -1/3, comma, 22/3. There's our vertex. F of x is equal to -3 times x plus 1/3 quantity squared plus 22/3. If you want your vertex from that, that's the opposite. The horizontal shift is -1/3. And you just bring this down. There's your vertex. It should equal that. Now, divide by 3. So I'm going to divide by 3/1 here. And -3/1 here. What happens when you divide a negative by a negative? It becomes a positive. So we do have x-intercepts. Just because this is a negative does not mean we're not going to have x-intercepts all the time. This is -3/1. So that means I'm going to multiply by -1/3. And I'm going to get, on the next page, I'm going to get x plus 1/3 quantity squared is equal to -23/3 yuck, because you can't take the square root of 3, but we're just going to have to work with it. Take the square root of both sides. That should be positive. Yeah, I'm sorry. And that should be 22/9. I knew that wasn't right. 22/9. And that's supposed to be positive. I added. I'm sorry. So now we're going to take the square root of both sides. X plus 1/3 is equal to the square root of 22/3. Now here is your exact answer. X is equal to positive or negative square root of 22 minus 1/3. Now, that's one way to write it. The book or the homework or the test, they want you to break this up. Positive square root of 22 minus 1/3 and negative square root of 22 minus 1/3. Now, I'm telling y'all this because I'm not going to change your answers on the test if you don't do the way they want you to. Okay? This is the way that they want it written on some questions. That's why you got to do the homework, and they will tell you to put a comma between the two. If they tell you to put a comma between the two, then that means they want you to write it in terms of positive and negative. If they tell you to put a comma, because I don't have a comma here, okay, please follow the directions on the test. Now on the homework, you got 3 tries, so you can get by with that. But you've got to associate the homework directions with the test directions. You need to read the directions. Yes, ma'am. Miss Ellis, you have a question?
Yeah, in the past,
In the past, what? You went mute on me.
Sorry. In the past, when I've taken math classes, we've been able to take the test twice. Is that going to be the case here?
Yes.
Okay.
Take it 3 times. And in fact, on completing the square, I think I give you 5 chances. Because it's so important. And why do I do that? Because some people think they don't have to do the homework and by the time you take 5 tests and you take 25, that's 125 questions. You've just done the homework. I know, I'm a bastard. But anyway, I'm going to get you either way. I'm going to make you learn completing the square unless you just quit. All right. So here we go. Now, those are the 2 ways. Now, how does Hubert want you to do it? Well, I want you to write it in terms of decimals because this means squat in the real world. This means squat in the real world. You don't walk up to somebody and say, we need to pull square root of 36 feet. Nobody does that. All right. So I want you to turn this into a decimal so you can actually graph it. And I don't want you to use a calculator either, because we all know that the square root of 16 is equal to 4 and the square root of 25 is equal to 5. Now y'all know that. And what's between 4 and 5? 4.5. So if 4.5 is in the middle of 4 and 5, then what's the square root of 20.5 is in the middle of 16 and 25. Now, if you can't find the middle of 4 and 5, and you can't find the middle of 16 and 25, you shouldn't be in college algebra. But I think if you sit down and look at it for a few minutes, you should be able to know that the halfway point between 4 and 5 is 4.5, and the halfway point between 16 and 25 is 20.5. So what do we need? We need the square root of 22. So I'm going to just say this is 21. I'm going to say 4.65 or 4.7. So x is equal to positive or negative. I'm just going to go with 4.7 minus 1 over 3. Why don't somebody prove me wrong and tell me what the square root of 22 is? Go ahead and use your calculator. Miss Ellis, do you have another question, or are you just sitting there with your hand up? She's not answering me.
My computer's lagging this morning, so when I try to hit a button, it
well, see, you shouldn't be living in BFE. All right. Okay. Really, Mr. Yarborough? I'm sorry, Miss Yarborough, 4.69. Oh, come on. Okay, 4.69. 4.7 is close enough for government work. So thank you, Miss Yarborough. So here we go. What's 4.7 minus 1? That's 3.7. So that's going to be 3.7 over 3. And what's negative 4.7 minus 1? That's negative 5.7 over 3. Well, $3.70. Well, 3 will go into 3 one time. 3 will go into 7 2 times. That's close enough for what we want. 3 will go into 5 one time, and 9. Now I'm ready to sketch my graph. Now, this is important because when you get into calculus later on, you're going to be asked to sketch graphs because you don't want to have to plot them. And when you're sketching, to be able to change a radical into a decimal without using a calculator, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Okay? That's why they should do away with these calculators until about the 11th or 12th grade. A student should, math-wise and science-wise, should not even touch a calculator until the 11th or 12th grade. And that's when they're doing scientific notation. And you can do that by hand too. But that's why we got people that can't make change with and can't spell mom backwards. There's no critical thinking skills because they're told to use a calculator to add 25 plus 7. Okay? Please don't raise your hand and tell me that you can't make change. I don't know if you can make change or not. I just said that. Get a sense of humor. All right, so let's go ahead and sketch this out. Turn it into the United States of buttercups. All right, here we go. -7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And let's see, what is our vertex? I done lost my vertex. There it is. -1/3. So there's 1. -1/3 right there. And 22, that's 7 1/3. It's going to be positive. So this is going to be, I'm making sure I'm not making a mistake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And our x-intercepts, no, something's not right. +7 is our dork. +7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 1/3 is right here. 7 is right here. Forget that. Sorry, I caught it, so I caught it before y'all did. All right, so I didn't make a mistake if I caught it. And then my x-intercepts is 1.2 and -1.9. Oh my gosh, my parabola is going what? It's concave what? What tells me that my parabola is concave down? What tells me that? A, Hubert. A is for orientation. That's right, class. A tells me, that's chapter 2. That negative right there tells me direction, negative, and 3 tells me that it's going to be skinny. Negative, direction, 3, skinny. This is chapter 2. And that's pretty much going, that right there is going to make up 80% of your test. Well, 70% of your chapter 1, unit 1 test right here. Being able to find a vertical and horizontal shift. All right, let's do the domain and range. Domain. If you miss the domain on this test, don't what? Don't tell anybody. Range. Range is the only one that is in terms of y. -infinity to 22/3. A lot of people ask me, well, Hubert, why do you start with -infinity? Well, I don't walk around with my nose up in the air. I usually look down. When I'm walking down the sidewalk, you know, I look down And when something happens, I look up. I don't walk down the sidewalk looking up and then with my nose up in there. Although some people do walk around with their nose up in there. I don't. So most of my interval notations is going to be from negative infinity up. Okay? On the concave down, mine is going to be negative infinity up. Because I don't walk around with my nose in there and I go 22/3 down. Okay? I don't usually do that. And that's why on my concave ups, I start with my number and go to positive infinity. Because I always start going down and go up. Increasing. Negative infinity to, what is it, 1/3, negative 1/3. And decreasing. Negative 1/3 to infinity. Line of symmetry always goes through vertex, which is x is equal to negative 1/3. Doesn't matter. I always start from the bottom and go up, whether it's concave up or concave down. Why do I always go from left to right? Because I wasn't born in the Middle East, Maslama. Okay? I was born here, right here. So I read left to right. Been reading left to right for a long time now. The reason I say that is because students come into math and they start reading right to left. And I don't understand that. I never have understood that. You've been reading from left to right all your life, and you come into math and you start reading right to left. I can understand you reading from top to bottom or bottom to top. I can understand that. But when you've been in a classical sense, 12 years, you've been reading from left to right, and you come into your 13th year of college or school, and you start reading from right to left. I never have understood that. I know. I need to shut up. Okay. Now, are you ready for number 9 and 10? Here we go. Number 9 and 10. 1/3, 1/2, x squared minus 4x minus 1/3 is equal to 0. And what should you do on this? What should everybody do on this one? Come on, people. Sense of humor. What should you do? Quit. There you go, Mr. Lynch. Erase the 1/2 and 1/3 and replace it with a whole number. That's what you should do. I used to do that on tests. Yeah, I did. I did that. I would erase, whenever I had a fraction, I would erase the fraction and put a number there, a regular number, and I could do the problem. That's sad, isn't it? Well, what are you going to do? Well, you do what you always do. You got to move the 1/3 first. So 1/2 x squared minus 4x plus blank is equal to 1/3 plus blank. Well, Hubert, why aren't you doing anything with decimals? Because if you have a decimal, you use quadratic formula. That's what the quadratic formula is used for. And I guarantee you some of your high school teachers told you to only use the quadratic formula. Bass acronyms. It's the Russians. That's what it is. All right, so I'm going to factor out a 1/2. Oh my gosh. I've got to factor out a 1/2 from the 4. How do I do that? Well, you divide. 4 divided by 1/2 is equal to 4/1 multiplied by 2/1, and that's equal to 8. So that's minus 8x plus blank is equal to 1/3 plus 1/2 times blank. Now, you need to make a note here. This is not completing the square. Okay, so we need to take a red pen This is not completing the square. This is nothing but factoring out a 1/2. 4 factored by 1/2 is 4 divided by 1/2. 4 multiplied by 2/1 is 8. Now, and look how easy completing the square is now. It's very simple. So I'm going to take first of all, I want to highlight this blue. I don't like to use this blue marker. Ugh. Ever since I was a kid, I hate that color blue. I don't know why I hate blue Christmas lights. Oh my gosh. Oh, I have to close my eyes when I see blue Christmas lights. I'm weird. I don't know. I think it was some childhood thing. Maybe I got electrocuted by blue lights on a Christmas tree or something. All right. So now I'm ready to complete the square. So here we go. We're going to complete the square. 8 divided by 2, square it. Oh gosh, I don't know. Somebody do this on a calculator, please. 4 squared is 16. And now I'm going to put that 16 there and there. So now I'm going to highlight that in orange. Why are you doing all this highlighting? Because I'm trying to show you, does anybody know the most popular mistake on a level 9 or 10? Y'all think, when y'all are doing this problem, y'all do what you're supposed to, but y'all think this is completing the square, and I don't know how you do it, but you think this is completing the square, and you take half of 8, and I mean, I don't know what y'all do. Y'all do something right here, and that is not completing the square. Oh, y'all add an 8 here and an 8 here, and do something like that. Okay. So now we've got shortcut number 2, and that's going to give us, and I've got to hurry up because y'all going to start falling down here in a minute. That's going to be 1/2 times x minus 4 quantity squared is equal to, well, that's a 1, so that 2, we'll take that out, and that's going to be 1/3 plus 24/3. And that's going to be 1/2 times x minus 4 quantity squared is equal to 25/3. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we got a perfect square. And it's going to be a perfect square because that 2 is going to make this, no, it's going to make it a 6. And that's not going to be a perfect square. But this is a start. This is level 9. So that means, y'all listen, that means we've got one more to cover. And I'm telling you what it is factoring out a negative fraction. And all of it's going to be fractions. So level 10 is factoring out a negative fraction with 3 fractions here. All right, that's level 10. And that means that we're through with completing the square, which should cover 3.1 through 3.4, but I'm going to go in the homework, and I'm going to pick out some things that I've skipped, but you should be able to handle the 3.1 through 3.4 homework as we go along. Please send questions, because I do realize that I have skipped a few things, not much. I have skipped a few things. I think I've skipped odd and even. I don't know if I've covered that or not, where you actually plug and chug the x and get a negative x. I know I got to go over that, but I would say 80% of 3.1 and 3.1 through 3.4 is completing the square, vertical and horizontal shifts, that kind of stuff. Okay, So I'm going to shut down the recorder now.